Hey guys, today I have my War number 8 video, and yeah, for this team we have a team of Doom, Reed, and Magneto. Doom's taking 6 fights, Reed's taking a fight, and Max is taking a fight. So first up we just have a Juggernaut. It's a pretty simple fight. The main reason he's placed here is because UA has these overlapping timers, which makes it hard to tell when UA is actually going to trigger. But this isn't really a worry because it's just an unstoppable and it's not gonna hurt you because it's Jugs. So yeah. And that's why I like using Doom for this. He doesn't really care if the defender goes unstoppable for a little bit, because if you eat a combo, it's like, okay, you take like a tiny bit of damage, but it's no big deal. So yeah. For this Jug, we just wanna kill it. There's really not much commentary I can add. It's a pretty simple Doom fight, kind of self-explanatory. And yeah, we go for this 01. It ends up giving a Fury buff, which pushes us to our L2, so I pop that L2, and the fight is just over. And yeah, next up I have this Peni on Power Snack. DOL has done this fight a bunch, so I pretty much just copied what he did in his videos, which is really just trying to only hit during that passive stun and throw L2s during the passive stun as well, because even if she ends up auto blocking the L2, it's not a big worry, and it is worth the tiny risk of auto block. And it does actually happen in this fight where she auto blocks the second hit of my L2, but I'm able to parry after she auto blocks, so it doesn't end up hurting me. And if you don't end up parrying, it's not a big deal, because you would be able to what's it called? You would be able to go ahead and evade with all the Mr. Fantastic debuffs. So, not a lot of risk involved here. Um, the main thing that can really go wrong is, like, if you eat an L2 or something, but you can just block that perfectly fine with all his evades and everything. So, yeah. We pop a Power Star 1 here instead of an Invuln. I think popping an Invuln is fine here, but you don't really need an Invuln for this matchup, so I'm just going with the PS1. And yeah. And there you can see she auto blocks that, but we're able to just parry after this and get our debuffs locked in again. And yeah, it's basically this the whole way through. This defender has willpower off, so I'm not going to be able to get any damage from reversing willpower, which makes this a very slow fight. Well, not like super slow, but it's a lot slower than it would be if there was willpower. And now she has 0 auto block charges, so I'm going to try and get that L2 off, because now I know for sure it won't be auto blocked. And yeah. Now we want to go for L3s to get the Fury. Yeah. And your damage will be decent after your L3. You'll start hitting pretty hard, and we want to get that passive up because my Reed is duped, so we will get extra power from having that passive special one icon up. So yeah. And it's really just a simple fight after you get to this point. Alternatively, I could have used Mags or Doom for this fight. I know NXS has been using Doom for this, and a lot of allies have used Mags for this, so I pretty much could use whoever I wanted here, but I went with Reed. And yeah, it went quite well. After this L3, she really doesn't have much of a chance to recover. Yeah. We're gonna... And all the auto block charges are off, so I just go for a combo here. And we pretty much just have to hit her one more time, and she's dead. So a little bit over 2 minutes. So yeah, pretty slow fight. But not a bad counter. The main reason it was so slow is, again, willpower off, but yeah. Now, on this Mixmaster, we have a Mangog. I'm gonna use Doom. And this fight, I play it quite poorly, but Doom survives basically any mistake you can make here, other than eating his L2, but it's pretty easy to avoid that here. So yeah. the strat is to just pay attention to mixed master combos, use the 200% Mystic and MD5 with Mangog's own buffs and the buffs from Unstoppable Armor, and just pop as many L3s and L2s as possible to end this fight. Yeah. I end up playing fairly poorly. I shouldn't have blocked this last hit. Wait, no, it wasn't that L1. This is the L1, I think. Yeah, I shouldn't have blocked this because it pushes you far enough away that you can get parried by that. And then, yeah, that happened. And then I did this, but I had my L3 ready to save me, thankfully. And yeah, after this L3, we're gonna get a good chunk of damage off, because we get the Fury. Later in the fight, my L3 Fury actually gets stopped by Mangog staggers because I eat an L1, which is interesting. I wasn't expecting that. And yeah, it definitely caused a little bit of a slower fight. And here we go, popping off that L2 now. The first hit whiffed, but it doesn't matter because it's unblockable. And yeah. And we get parried by this, and then he throws his L1 during the stun. And the last hit hits for 14,000, which was pretty big. Thank God for Doom's crit resist, or that could have gotten dangerous. But yeah, when he goes into this mode, he gets a lot of buffs that you can just feed with Mystic Dispersion. Get to your L2 and L3s quicker again. I probably should have turned on Willpower for this fight. I just wasn't expecting to actually get hit by an L1, or even thinking that was a possibility, but then I got parried, of course, so it happened. So I probably should have turned on Willpower for this and the Sassy fight, actually. But not a big deal. And yeah. Pretty much one more L3 will do it. And there they get the armor. Wasn't really paying attention, but it wouldn't have mattered if I hit into the Unstoppable anyway. But yeah. The Unstoppable armor is really hard to keep track of with Aggression Prowess because of the overlapping timers. This is one of my least favorite things about this new global. The overlapping timers just suck. Like, this fight should not be as complicated as it is, but due to those overlapping timers, it's really hard to tell when you're actually going to be able to do anything, which is rather annoying. But yeah, we get the solo. Again, a very slow fight, almost 3 minutes this time. But a very safe counter. You know, I messed it up really poorly, but Doom is just so safe there that even if you play as badly as that, you're still going to get the solo, which is all that matters. And then for the Sassy, I'm popping read pre-fights. This is mostly to allow me to have a little bit of extra room to work with in my cycle. You don't necessarily need to do this. It just allows for some flexibility, especially with UA. You definitely want flexibility, but I took this, I think, a couple wars ago without read pre-fights. You definitely don't need it, but they were a nice touch for sure. And yeah, I definitely think Doom is the best counter to Sassy here. You know, there's She-Hulk as well, and there's also Spider-99, but I think Doom's just way safer than either of those. And yeah, really just quite the simple fight, you know. UA really doesn't matter too much. It's going to actually make the fight easier on something like this, because Mystic Dispersion power is just huge on a fight like this, where you want to spam specials so much. That Mystic Dispersion from UA just makes this so much easier than previously, which is really, really nice. And yeah, we're going to go for an L1 after this, and then the MD from Unstoppable Armor again pushes me to my L2. I end up eating a combo there, but again, doesn't matter because it's Doom. And he enters Wrath of Tanarak, which is really nice because that gave me extra damage because it removes the resistance he gets from those charges, which lets me get more power and then lets me get to this L2. So that just lined up absolutely perfectly. And then we're going to wait this Unstoppable out. We're going to get some Mystic Dispersion after all of that's done. But doesn't matter, we're just going to end it with a heavy. And fight's over. And now the rest of my fights are pretty simple. We have this Killmonger and Ghulk. Normally for this Killmonger it would be a lot faster, But I ran out of Mystic boosts completely. Like, that Mystic power boost I popped for Mangog and Sassy was my single last one. It was just the 150. They came back in the store, thankfully, after I finished all my war fights already. But yeah, I'm glad they're back, so I don't have to worry about them being completely gone for the next war. And yeah, we're just gonna go for L3 cycling. Mostly, we'll throw L2s and stuff as well as just whenever it lines up properly to where it's going to be a good idea to throw the L2. And yeah, we try to intercept before the L3. We don't get it. Would have been really nice timing if we had gotten that, but we don't. And yeah, we're going to just go into our L3. And yeah, there's not really much commentary I can add to this fight. With Sadist, it's a lot simpler than on Mighty Charge. On Mighty Charge, you really can't do this fight if you don't have that Mystic Power boost, but thankfully it's just on Sadist, so that wasn't the worry. And I was going to be able to do this fight just fine without that being a worry. And yeah, now we want to hopefully get a combo, and thankfully he was pretty aggressive there, so we can keep up this Fury and go for the second Fury, which is really nice. And yeah. He's going down steadily. You don't really need to intercept at all for this fight. Obviously, it's a nice touch, but it's a very easy fight with Doom, you know. I don't really know what else I can add to the commentary for this fight. I tried to go for an intercept there, but he didn't dash in, so I just threw it. Oh, and yeah, this Killmonger does not have willpower, which for this fight actually makes it pretty significantly quicker, which is nice. Because if he had willpower, he'd be constantly healing from these shocks and these armor breaks, but he doesn't. It wouldn't really make a difference. It would probably just mean an extra L3 I'd have to throw. But yeah, now this fight is done, and we have a Ghulk on Mighty Charge. This fight, again, it's mostly just L3 cycle. It's really hard to get damage off on this Ghulk. So it's a pretty slow fight, but due to Doom being Doom, you're fairly safe here. You know, you'd have to make a lot of mistakes to actually lose the fight. And the other thing is, during his smash, he will actually go stun immune here. Because UA makes any unstoppable trigger that stun immunity, which is rather annoying. Another thing I really don't like about this tactic is how it makes natural unstoppables trigger stun immunity, rather than just the UA ones. I understand there's probably not an easy way to program it to not do that, but yeah. We get an intercept with this L1. You know, I had a feeling I was going to get that, so I just threw that L1, and we get some nice damage off of it. UA lines up poorly, so we don't really get to take full advantage of the Fury. But yeah. We're about ready to go into our L3 cycle. We are on pace to outdamage the fight even before our L3, so not much worry going on here. And we time this as a good point so that I will still get the MD power after this L3 from that armor expiring, which is rather nice. And yeah, we do have class disadvantage here, but it doesn't really matter in a matchup like this. Oh wait, no, I didn't get the timing for that UA. Never mind. And yeah, Crowd Frenzy is the main reason why Ghulk is placed with this, because when he goes into Crowd Frenzy, there's pretty much no way you can really get openings unless you have an unstoppable counter. But since Crowd Frenzy is so short in duration, it doesn't really matter. It's a very small window where there's actually that going on, so you don't really have to worry about it. And out of Crowd Frenzy, he doesn't smash enough to actually be a worry with that interaction. Here I go for an intercept, and we get it before L3, and this lets me get pretty big damage off. This is effectively going to win me the fight at this point. You know. Yeah. Pretty much just a one fight. He goes into Crowd Frenzy again, which is annoying, but it doesn't really matter, because again, it's just very short in duration. Mystic Dispersion is going to give me my L2 here. And we try to go for the intercept. I was a little bit late on it, so I didn't get the intercept. And yeah, he's at 17%. He enters the regen. Doesn't really matter too much. And yeah, I'm trying to get an intercept off. We get it there. That's my tactic I like to go for intercepts, is hitting into their block, dashing off, and a lot of the time they will just dash in after that. So that's a nice little trick to get intercepts if you're struggling with Path 5 Section 2. It's quite nice. And he does this just before that would have killed him, and now I just wait for parry and end the fight. And yeah, for this Maw, it's a pretty quick fight. Yeah, it's the nice thing about Doom here is I have the read synergy, which is gonna double the length of his focus down duration. Even with Mighty Charge, it will shrug that debuff, which, in my mind, back when I first took this fight, like way back in the day, I was thinking, oh, there's no reason for that, because it'll just get shrugged. But since it's on every knockdown, it's at the perfect time, so the shrug really won't affect you here if you're using the armor breaks themselves. And yeah, you see he gets that extra long focus down duration, which is really nice, makes this fight really safe. And yeah, and I want to go for a lot of intercepts and L2s, just try and get as much damage as possible. Yeah, not much I can add about this fight. It's a fairly simple Doom fight. We get this off here, and then my game lags, so I hesitate, but then we're good, and yeah. And then here, he blocks this. This is another AI trick you can use with Doom, where you do that, immediately block when he's in the corner, and then you can get the knockdown on Mighty Charge when your first shot got shrugged. Which is why I think this gets placed, to make it so you can't Doom it. But if you know that little trick, then the fight becomes very simple to Doom. And that's really all there is to this fight, is knowing that small trick. And if you know that, you're good to go. And yeah, now for this Ultron, it's just a max fight. I'm turning on 3 out of 3 passive again. So while I'm doing this fight, I will just talk about this war. We ended up beating SR, which is quite nice. I think their death total was 10, and our death total was 7. 7's a pretty good performance. Our last 4 wars have been 3 deaths, then 4 deaths, then 6 deaths, and now 7 deaths. So I'm really happy with how we're doing, That performance is just great, Anything around that area, I'm very happy with. Hopefully we can keep this up. We are 5 wins and 3 losses for the season, which is just fantastic. Yeah, we're definitely on track to get Masters if we can keep this up. And if we can keep this performance up, maybe there might be a push for top 10 Masters, which would be awesome. If we would be able to achieve that, that would just be awesome. And yeah. And yeah, surrounding this war, one of the guys in ASR had called us shit, which was pretty funny when they went on to lose the war after calling us shit. So yeah, I don't take it personally. I know there's a lot of trash talk in war, but it's just pretty funny that you talk shit and then immediately lose. So yeah, that's fun. Oh man, always love seeing shit like that. So funny. And yeah, I am on a 76 solo streak right now. So I have 20 more fights to go till I'm back at 100. So we're getting there. If I average 6 fights a war and solo all of my fights for the rest of the season, I could get it this season if I do that. But there's still a long way to go to that point, so hopefully I can get there. But yeah, great war. Great war, everybody in SZN. Really great.